3-banded armadillo. We're getting ready to do a sloth encounter, so if you've ever wanted to see what a sloth encounter is like at Ocoee Riverside Farm, keep watching. We're located in Benton, Tennessee, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville. Come on out and check over our 150 animals. We have sloths, kangaroos, llamas, and this cute little guy, Baku. Baku's a 3-banded armadillo. Come on out and visit us. Keep watching and you'll see some sloths.
Just go on in and then.
She'll push them out.
Alright. You guys can have a seat there. There you go. That way. Out. Out. Alright, so this is Dash. He's here we're going to start out with first this morning, and Dash is a little bit different than Flash because he's actually comfortable with being held. And so Dash is an ambassador sloth, which means that he meets 2 requirements. He genuinely enjoys and actively seeks out human interaction. And so he's been pretty hungry this morning too, so we're going to feed him a little bit as well. You're going to hold first since you're sitting in the blue chair,
okay.
unless you're wanting to hold first.
That's all right.
And so when we hold him, we just want to be sure to support underneath his booty. You can pet him real slow down the middle of his back like this, unless you're holding a food bowl to the side.
Okay.
But they don't really like the scritches like a dog or a cat would like.
Okay.
And he does this a lot, and people are tempted to scratch him on his chin because a cat might really like that, but not so much sloth. So we try to avoid that too.
Okay, so just his back.
Yeah, just down his back, just like this with an open hand. So he's going to wrap his legs around your waist just like this.
Okay.
And you'll put one hand underneath his booty to support his weight.
Okay.
This is going to come between your arm.
Okay.
Go butt. And I'll give you maybe this bowl, see if you want to hold it about
Yeah,
right here for him. Yeah. He's been pretty hungry this morning, so I think that's probably going to be what he's interested in. And that there is a mixture of brown rice, shaved up sweet potatoes, and actually a really high quality dog food that's been soaked in water and then mixed into it. So that's what we keep our babies on for about the first 2 years.
Baby, how old?
He just turned a year old. He turned a year old in August 5th is his birthday.
Okay.
So we've had Dash since he was about 5 months old, and when he first came to us, he was only like 2 pounds. So they're really small when they're first born, but they are weaned by around 3-4 months old for the 2-toed sloths, which is what he is. And then they're born, sloths are born with, eyes open, ears open, full set of teeth and ready to go, but they're really small, so they need the moms to be able to, learn how to be a sloth and for protection for the first several months. And then the 3-toed sloths, they stay with their mothers for about a year. They stay with them for a little bit longer because the 3-toed are a lot smaller than the 2-toed sloths.
Okay.
So the babies are born a lot smaller too.
Okay.
Where are you guys from?
Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay.
We're literally traveling across the country.
Yeah.
We're going to swing down through Texas, up through to Colorado, Utah, and back down.
Yeah.
Virginia.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
About 2.5 weeks worth of
Yeah.
drive.
I tend to, my family has always, we make a long trip, stay there for a week, and then the long trip back.
Yeah.
We've never done the road trips like that where we travel around. That'd be really cool to
Yeah,
do.
we did New England
Yeah.
last year, the Midwest the year before. All of ours has just been driving, especially since COVID. And just, you can fly over the United States, it's a lot better to see it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fast. And plus, you can't just work this
Yeah.
into a flight, you have to keep going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So is this kind of the highlight of the trip or just something?
for
that
me,
you found?
absolutely.
Yeah.
The sauce, man. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't know. I just love them.
Yeah, just their demeanor.
Yeah. It's kind of turning into mine. So,
Yeah. That's how a lot of people try to live.
yeah.
Just not care about anything.
Mm-mm.
Dash is more comfortable at this point with being on somebody than he is being by himself, and it would be more stressful for him to go an entire day without human interaction like this
Wow.
than it would be for him to be by
Because
himself.
he was just kind of raised that way.
Exactly. Yeah, he was conditioned from a young age. When he was about a week old is when the conditioning started. So he was already conditioned by the time that we got him, 5 months old. And the breeder that does the conditioning, he's actually a veterinarian, and he's been breeding sloths for over 35 years. Yeah, so you have to really understand the way that a sloth's brain works to be able to condition them like that, because they don't, a dog would do well with negative reinforcement.
Right.
They don't want to upset you, and if you use an upset tone with them, they're going to know that that's not the right thing that they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Sloths don't understand things like that, so positive reinforcement is how they learn. So
Okay.
you have to, all of the training and conditioning has to be geared towards that way. And everything with a sloth has to be slow, just like they are.
Oh, yeah.
And so the first few times that the breeder would hold the baby, it would just be for like 10 or 15 seconds, and then that baby would go right back to mom. So the mom's never stressed and baby's never stressed. So it's always a positive interaction. And the mother's done it before. She went through that program as well. So, hey Flash, excited to come down now, bud? I left this rice here on the doorway so that he would come down for us. Come on, bud. We get a little bit of a treat because you'll get to see both of them here. Both of them at the same time. Come on, buddy. Come on.
Now, they're bred and raised here?
Yes, they're born and raised in captivity, but we don't breed them here at this facility.
Okay.
So we got Dash and Zoe from that breeder that I was talking about. That's the veterinarian. And then Flash came from a different circumstance. So Flash has never been held and will never be held unless he's the one that climbs onto us.
Oh, gotcha.
So everything with him is much slower, even than it is with Dash and Zoe, because he's comfortable being around people. He'll come out here, he'll get his breakfast and hang out with us for about an hour in the morning, and then he'll go back up, and we might not see him for the rest of the day. Just kind of depends on what mood he's in.
Now, how old is he?
He just turned 7 years old. Come on, bud.
You guys will be able to go back and watch this later on YouTube and Facebook if you want, and I'll cut up the TikTok into short ones.
Yeah.
But having Flash come out is pretty awesome at the same time.
Let's give him a little bit of a treat afterward, just make sure he knows he's a good boy. So I just had to think about it this morning.
It's a lazy Friday.
Yeah. And he has lazy days a lot of times, so he'll be real slow to come down in the mornings. And then if John comes in and John gets him moving, because John was his primary caregiver. He walked in at the very beginning of our encounter.
Okay, yeah.
He was the one that started out with him, 2 years ago when we first got him, or 3 years ago. For the first 2 years is really all of that conditioning and everything just to get him used to being around people, because he came from a facility that was similar to a zoo, where he was just, had somebody go in to his enclosure just to feed him, and then would come back out. They never really spent time in there with him. And so when he came here, and he had people starting to, spend time in there and sit in his enclosure and talk to him and everything, he thought we were a bunch of weirdos for a long time. There you go, bud. So he'll hang out there. I'll get him a little bit of food bowl here set up.
And do you guys have a camera, and I'll take a picture for you if you want to? Because that would be a pretty cool shot. Alright. Say sloths. Sloths. There you go.
Thank you.
Wonderful. You guys have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Flash gets impatient once he comes out. He's like, all right, I've made a long trek down. Where's my food? It's supposed to be ready for me.
Hey, buddy.
Sweet potatoes. So you can offer him any of this while you're sitting there. You just kind of offer him the very end of it like that.
Alright.
Sometimes he has to think about it and sniff it and smell it. And then he'll usually turn his head away if he doesn't want it. But you give him just the very end, and then you can let it go, and he'll take the rest of it in. And a really cool thing to talk about too, when they're completely extended upside down like that, is actually the way that their digestive system is set up. So they only have a one-way valve that allows food to go into their esophagus, but not back out.
So they can't
Vomit like we can. And that's really beneficial for them if they're hanging upside down like that and they're eating something upside down, because they can still swallow it. It's not going to come back out like it would for us. But it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because if they eat something that doesn't set right with them, or if they eat too much, they're stuck with that for another 30 days, because that's how long it takes for one bite of food to process all the way through the
Because
tract.
they only come down like once or twice a month. to go to
Once
the
a week,
bathroom,
yeah, once a week, so they only go to the bathroom about 3 to 4 times a month,
Okay.
yeah. Which is really good that they only get the urge, not very often to go, because like you said, when they do, they have to go all the way down to the
Yeah.
floor to go to the bathroom, and that's for a very specific reason that researchers have debated on for a long time. Some scientists will say that they're trying to fertilize their own tree so that that tree flourishes the most and they can stay in it for a long period of time. Others say that they're just creatures of habit and they like to do the same thing in the same way every time, which doesn't really make sense because when they come down there, that's when they're most exposed.
Right.
And if they're fertilizing their own tree, if they poop up from the tops of the trees, it's still gonna fall on that tree's root system.
Right.
But the reason why we believe that they go down all the way to the floor is because they have a symbiotic relationship with moths that live on their back in the wild, not here thankfully, because that would be really gross. But in the wild, there's a very specific type of moth that has a long scientific name, but I just call them the sloth moths because that is the only place that those moths live in the entire world. And they can't fly like other moths can. They require direct contact with the surface that they're trying to get onto to be able to get there. And so the moths need somewhere to repopulate, and for the moths, that's the dung pile of the sloth. So that's why they have to go all the way down there, so that they can crawl down off,
So
lay
they
their
shut
eggs,
off
and then
there
crawl
and
back
then
up.
go back up with them.
And then a week later, when the sloth gets the urge to go to the bathroom again, they don't just go down a different tree. They go down the same tree, the same side of the tree, to the same pile that they always go to, because in that pile are last week's eggs that were laid that are now this week's larvae. And last week's larvae that was in that pile are now this week's moths that will crawl back up onto the sloth. So it takes 2 weeks to go through that process, and the sloth has to always go to that same pile so that they can, keep crawling
Now,
up
do the
onto
moths
it.
clean them or just cohabitate?
So the moths will, the moths will come up and provide that, nitrogen to the, algae and fungus and, moss that's growing on their backs.
Mhm.
So it helps to maintain that whole ecosystem that's living there on their backs, because that's what they use for camouflage up in the tops of the trees,
Okay.
is that green coloration. But the most important part of the relationship for the sloths is that those moths will produce the